Otherwise, hold on a minute, what's underneath there? Otherwise, it's curtains for Portugal's property market. Well, Gordon Ramsay has spoken, if only through Chat GPT. Would you agree with some of those sentiments?
I would have to say yes, just because it's not just Portugal that depends on international, people coming to the country. It's also bigger countries as well too. Canada, the U.S., Germany, France, Spain, all of these places, they rely on foreign people coming to the country for some sort of reason. Yes. So I really think that Portuguese people should really start to think, okay, how can we benefit from the situation, or how can we grow from the situation? And these are the kind of scenarios that I'm trying to promote at my events, where I connect people with real estate agents, mortgage brokers, investors, or legal teams, accountants. I'm trying to bring everyone in because I didn't just say one day I'm going to be a real estate investor. I knew that I was going to do this. Once I started learning about it, I was like, you know what, this is actually kind of fun. And I guess this kind of ties into your guys' whole the mindset things of how people perceive things. And when I start to show people like, oh, okay, if you don't have any money and you don't have any real estate to invest into property, there's applications out there where you can just upload a photo. And let's say someone that owns a home that is trying to sell, you can upload to that program and you can make a €400 profit if that home sells.
Nice. We need that, please. We need a link for that.
I'll definitely try and get it across to you within the next couple of days. I have to double check a few things with them. But pretty much from what I can see so far, it's kind of similar to what we call, and I know you Brits love hearing this word, bird dogging. You all think it's something else, but
bird dogging what is bird dogging?
Bird dogging is where back in the day they used to have, or I mean even today, hunters, they shoot the bird and the dog goes and gets the bird.
I gotcha, yeah.
And brings it back. Okay. Yeah. So what essentially you're doing as that person is being the dog that goes and gets the bird. If you go out and find people that are selling properties or have rooms, or they just want to get rid of their real estate, or they're looking to sell in a reasonable time period, people like myself are willing to purchase these properties cash within a speedy time frame, as long as the numbers make sense.
Okay. All right, gun dog is, I mean, it doesn't make it sound any better in many ways, but gun dogs is what we would say in the UK. And thank you for that explanation there, so as not to get us banned from YouTube. That's wonderful. And I do like that reframe as well, that because it is a bit of it's a bit boring, really, isn't it? It's a cliche, the foreigners coming over here, buying up all the real estate, making it unbearable for us. There is some truth in it, of course, but it's very kind of unimaginative, uncreative, ultimately. And here you are. We were talking about being solution focused, but here, I mean, genuinely is a solution, isn't it? Well, why don't you get involved as well? You could complain. You could keep complaining about this, or you can have a piece of the action. Because it's, I mean, let's face it, it's not going to stop happening, is it?
No. I mean, it still gets back to that term of the silver tsunami. We're starting to see record amount of people relocating to Portugal. I shouldn't even say relocating to Portugal. It's relocating to places that have more sun than what they're used to back home. People are wanting people are wanting to relocate for a better lifestyle because they can't afford to live in their own countries, or they can't afford to retire in their own countries. So all I'm trying to teach people to do is provide these accommodations for these people, and you can win. I mean, we have a scenario of a property that we're picking up right now where we're not actually purchasing the property. We're doing a joint venture with the homeowner that owns a ruin. They inherited a ruin. All we're doing is bringing the money to refurbish the property, fix it, and sell it for a profit. And we're including them on 50% of the profit.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a win.
They're not having to do anything. We're taking care of the whole process, but they're providing the home for the project. We're bringing the money for the renovation, and then we sell for a handshake.
Very good. Have you heard of the silver sensitive tsunami? Because it's all of these therapists and psychotherapists moving to Portugal. Apparently, there's a whole load of them who will need houses.
I mean, I'd say it's definitely something that we can look into. And I definitely think that even Portugal could be a place just because of how caring the people are and how family oriented the Portuguese society is. I think it would be a great place for people that are like war veterans or people that are, they're suffering from like a mental disorder, from it could be whatever. It could be they've been hurt by something or something happened. Yeah, trauma.
Yeah.
If we set up locations right now where we provide, a resort for these people to help get recovered, honestly, I think there's a big money pit there and not in a bad sense, in a good sense. A place where
absolutely, of course,
ton of money would get in there.
You don't have to explain that. I mean, it's very interesting, and I'm interested in your view on this, James, because that had never occurred to me before. This is a kind, calm culture, isn't it? And it's ideal for anyone in recovery of that kind to come to. And Central Portugal as well. I mean, this is what you're specializing in, and we'll talk more about the beauty of Central Portugal. But what about that, James? The idea of actually framing Portugal as a warm, welcoming place in which to recover.
Well, if you leave out the in which to recover, that was the sole reason I came. Anyway, I struggle a little bit with the notion that can be taken away that there's a single fix for any given set of circumstances, because the first thing that occurred to me is, well, yeah, the culture definitely is. It's certainly more in alignment for my way of living. That's why I moved here.
Yeah.
But it may not be for someone recovering or not. There are people that it's not for.
Yes.
The A personality, got to be busy, go do it, make a profit all the time, and do it fast as I can, is going to be sorely unhappy in Portugal. Yes. And if they're traumatized and that, which may be driving that, then being in Portugal might actually exacerbate it as opposed to alleviate it. So I just say, yes, I think it's a great idea. Any place we can get a recovery situation aligned with what a person needs, absolutely. But it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. It's like there's going to be the people who need a calm, embracing, respectful environment to recover in that would do best in this. But then they have to learn a new language, possibly. You have to deal with, there's lots of other things that could create more stress. So it's, again, like everything, it's a complex situation that requires some complex resolution. And I think it could be a really good one, absolutely. But not a blanket like, oh yeah, that's a solution.
That's just my personality. It comes up with stuff like that. And I totally take your point. Absolutely right. It's not going to work for everybody. And we see, I mean, I got a bit upset on social media on Saturday because somebody had posted up Mrs. M's. I take criticism of her much worse than I do of myself.
Yes.
So she there's her expats everywhere video, like what he didn't tell you. And it got posted up in an expat group and brought to my attention. And people had forgotten it was said 3 years ago. So I gradually kind of talked myself down from my first comments, which were, I forgot you had to drink vinegar as being part of this group, to a more moderate reframing of, I think Portugal's like, I think we might have said this before, it's like alcohol and money. It's an amplifier. So if you're a bit of a so-and-so when you're sober, you're likely to be more so when you're drunk or rich. And it may be the same in Portugal. It may just be a wonderful environment to magnify what is already there. And that could be really uncomfortable, or it could really be blissful and wonderful too. I don't
think it's going to make an asshole more of an asshole, though.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
I've seen it.
Yeah? Okay. Maybe I'm just not exposed.
Of course.
I'm just not exposed to those people, so I'm being in some way self-sheltered.
I'll need to do more sessions with you to make sure I'm not so much in the future as well. Right, Steve, there's a lot on this poster. This is the network networking event that's coming up that you mentioned here from 5 in the afternoon through to 9. So it's an evening event, and with all that small print on there, can you talk us through it and what people can expect to learn and enjoy at this event?
Pretty much what I'm doing is I'm providing a platform for people to learn about investing in the property market. So again, it's dedicated towards bringing people from all sides of property investment. What I want to do is bring all of the legal teams, accountants, contractors, first-time investors, experienced investors. I want to bring them all into one area because I don't think that Portugal has that sort of network yet, or I shouldn't say have it, but a consistent kind of meetup for it. And there are meetups that happen like once or twice a year, but what I'm trying to do is pretty much on the even months throughout the year, I host networking events, and on the odd months, we have like an online event where people can just learn online. And I was actually thinking about doing something that's similar to like a chat roulette, where if you are an investor or a contractor or anything to do with the property community, you come in and then you get put into a chat roulette where you get to be with 4 people for 10 minutes. And then you progressively, the room changes around every 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is. Still something that I'm working on, but I'm just trying to connect the property community a lot more because I think that the financial literacy around it needs to really grow in Portugal for it to be beneficial for the Portuguese people.
What do you mean by that exactly? I'm thinking rich dad, poor dad sort of mentality. Are you talking about challenging current thinking about how people get into property and all the objections they've got?
I agree. Yeah. So like, let's take, for example, I had someone get mad at me a few months ago saying, why are you purchasing property to rent it out? And I was like, to make money.
Steve, why?
And they're like, oh, you don't want to just keep it as like a summer home or something? And I said, no, I'm trying to provide homes for people. And they said, yeah, but then you have to deal with all the headaches, and you have to deal with this, deal with that. I have people that deal with that stuff. I just try and help people as much as I can to get these properties in a good condition. But there's that kind of mindset. There's mindsets where people think that they can't invest in property for less than 5,000 euros. There's people that think that they don't have the time or the effort. We have solutions for these problems. So I'm trying to provide a platform where everyone can learn. And I'll be going over it as the topics of the event as well too, where you can earn 400 euros per referral if the property is closed. So if we buy the property and all the paperwork goes through, then you will get a 400 euro grant or a referral fee for helping us out.
A handshake. Yes. Elian's here. Elian Lopes, a very good morning to all. Keep up the good work, Steve. I agree. Keep up that good work.
Thank you.
And it's like, how could you buy properties and rent them out to people? What were you thinking? But that's the big problem here, isn't it? There is a shortage of inventory. There's not a shortage of stock in a sense, but there's a shortage of available and ready to renovate stock. And that's what you've just incentivized there. So I think that's really smart. And that's the big spanner in the works at the moment, isn't it? You first arrive in Portugal, especially central Portugal. You're driving around thinking, when I first got here, I was posting up a photograph of doer upper of the week. It got boring in the end because it was like every place you went to, it's like, oh, there's another one, there's another one. And I remember people saying to me at the time, oh, you'll get sick of this. And but I wasn't at the time. I was falling in love with each new abandoned building I saw in central Portugal with the telephone number daubed on the front of it, which I later realized had been daubed on there some 15 or 20 years ago, and it had still stood empty in all that time. So you're getting in there with an incentive, because that's the way to do it. That's the way to make humans change their behavior, isn't it? That's a solid incentive to bring those ruins into some serviceable condition. And back into the market where it's desperately needed, isn't it? That's not what's being said about foreigners. They're coming over here and they're making rental properties available. That's got to be a good thing. So well done and congratulations on that.
Yeah. I also want to make it clear that it's not just central Portugal that this can happen. You could do it anywhere in the world, or even just anywhere in Portugal. You can do these opportunities where you can, if you can find out who the owner is of these ruined properties, offer to pay them, 250 or 300 euros rent for the next 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is bring the money in for the renovations. And let's say you do pay 250 or 300 euros per year. You can rent out the unit for 650, 700 a month.
Yes. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So you can rent and I guess cash flow from a property without actually owning it.
Yep, very good, very good. So these new reframes, new angles on this could really change quite a stagnant situation. Pam's saying in Alcobaça, a lot of talk about abandoned ruins. So maybe there's an agenda change here. We all know there are a lot of ruins and we know why, but maybe there might be something in the air. It might be pressure of the market. It might be, new thinkers like yourself that are changing this, and it can change. We have recently had a road closure because a house is about to fall down. It's a sorry state of affairs when it's got as far as that, and perhaps that becomes a compulsory purchase, which is another angle into this, Steve. If we can stay with Central Portugal for a moment, I saw a posting of yours. I think it was yesterday, people asking me, and it sounds like you get a lot of heat and you get a lot of questions. And I think you quite like that as well in a funny sort of way. But why Central Portugal? Why would you want to invest in Central Portugal? And you posted up a beautiful video. What's been in it for you to have this sort of, new love affair with Central Portugal?
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to really go after a market of people that feel like they can't afford homes where they are currently.
Yeah.
So because we're purchasing these houses for, 20, 30,000 euros, what I'm doing is using the business model of pooling funds together and investing into these projects as a team and giving these people a 16% return. That is kind of a low risk. Because we're purchasing these properties and, let's say we even just get them into a livable condition, we've already doubled our money from what it was initially started with to purchase.
Yes. Yeah. And you're not having to find $1 million to invest in an apartment, a T1 in Lisbon downtown.
No. The most I've spent on a project in Central Portugal, I think, is 120,000 euros altogether.
Okay, and it's fair to say, I think you have had your own eyes opened by going over that way and seeing what incredible beauty there is in this part of the country.
Yeah, it's been a mixture of working with different types of agents. It's been a mixture of working with different companies as well too. I know a lot of people in Portugal are saying, "Oh, don't work with this company or don't work with that company or do this, do that." But what I'm really trying to stress for people that are investing into Portugal is that you have to be really diverse. If you're not diverse, you're not going to grow. It's the same thing with people that only invest into Airbnb. There's only so many Airbnbs that can be made before you're not making any profit.
Yeah.
Someone will always be bigger and better than you and willing to spend more money or take a bigger loss just so that they push you out of the market.
Interesting. James, have you been over to Central Portugal much? I guess it's a bit difficult, isn't it? If as a public transport user primarily, that does preclude Central Portugal a little bit.
Yeah, like not at all. I think Fatima is about as far east as I've been in Portugal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not yet. It's all sort of awaiting other things. I've got a couple other projects I'm working on, and it's on the list. I said, well, if I just stay in Portugal for 5 years to get my residency and never leave the country, I will still have more things to see than I have time for. So
no question. No question. But it does. I think we do need to get some scouting trips together of Central Portugal, Steve. I would gladly drive the bus and drive around these beautiful places in Central. Absolutely love it over there. And I've got some. I was hoping for a moment to be able to shoehorn in some imagery of Central Portugal. I see myself as living in Central Portugal. Funny enough, it's a little bit of an anomaly because we live in a touristic seaside town, but we've definitely got Central Portugal vibes. For example, the church I drove past the other day with sheep walking up and down the steps of the. It's not a great photograph, but it was a remarkable scene to behold as I was driving I think I showed you this, Steve, where you drive around the bend and you can see out to the Atlantic. On the left is a little church, which should have been a church, I think, that was dedicated to fishermen and blessing them in and out of the harbour. But there was a flock of sheep standing outside this church. It's like, what fantastic imagery, a flock outside the church there. And I talked to that lady and she declared to me that she was a black sheep in her own family. And we had such a lovely, warm conversation, which is another part of central Portugal, friendly people. And then yesterday, not far, we're going further east into the country. We're beginning to feel the central Portugal vibes, just one village away, with this new mural depicting life as you might see it in central Portugal. I love this. This is something that you'll see in many parts of Portugal. It's not a well, it's a font, isn't it? It's a font. It's a tap of municipal water where you can go and fill up your bottles of water willy-nilly, basically. And it depicts a scene. I'll zoom in on this so that you can see what we're talking about. This is people in the old days washing their laundry at such a place, and you'll see this all over central Portugal as well. Zooming in a bit closer. Look at that. I saw the artist over the last couple of weeks creating this work. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, that's it in its context with the countryside behind. And there's a close-up with the water pouring out of the tap there that people can come along. They come along in their cars with their water bottles, they refill. And what a beautiful scene it is. That's the sort of thing we're talking about in central Portugal, that life. And not necessarily people washing their laundry, but you could do that if you wanted to. There are still places where that's possible, the communal laundry facilities. But that rurality, that friendliness, that calmness, that quietness is there in abundance, isn't it, in this part we're talking about?
Yeah, it's I also want to make it clear that it's not just all, in the middle of nowhere. There are nice cities in those areas. Portugal Grande, Castanheira de Pera, Portugal Pequeno, all of these places, or even Coimbra. Coimbra is also in central Portugal as well. And it's the second biggest city in Portugal. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
There's tons to do, and so there's, as a person that comes from Canada, being able to go, into the bushes, or being able to go to the beach. Let's say, for example, you lived in Castanheira de Pera. You're 45 minutes away from Figueira da Foz. You're 45 or maybe closer to an hour and a half to Coimbra. You're an hour and a half to Lisbon. And there's tons of locations that are available that you can live where, you're within a reasonable driving range. The coast is not far away. Most of the time, I don't even like going to the coast. I like being, secluded, or being away where I know who my neighbor is, or there's not 100,000 Airbnbs around me and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I keep dragging it towards my idyll, but you're absolutely right. You don't have to be cut off, and it doesn't have to be in the middle of nowhere. And for example, Michael Barton, who's chosen Miranda de Corvo, there's going to be a tram. The tram is going to be reinvigorated. A fantastic connection to central Portugal from Coimbra that you mentioned there. Barak is in Travança de Lagos. Lagos, I beg your pardon. And we totally agree about the attraction to central Portugal, as we saw there. And yes, please come. That tour bus is going to be stopping at Oliveira do Hospital as well, which is another fantastic town, isn't it? A superb town.
Yes, it is.
And public transport is good here in Portugal. You can take a train from Lisboa Oriente to Coimbra B. From Coimbra, you can take public transportation to many communities in central Portugal. Thank you, Michael. And João de Norte, we have a lovely place nearby where people still wash their laundry by the stream. So it still happens in Portugal. It's our lovely poo bridge, meaning Winnie the Pooh, because you don't want to be washing your laundry where people are pooing in the river. The first place we went house hunting was Castanheira de Pera, says Pam Smith there. We've got a couple of minutes to go. Let's give you a last word on this, Steve, and then we'll come to your visuals, James, that you sent me earlier on. So, Steve, you want people to come to your event. When is it, and what can they expect, just briefly?
It's on April 19th, 2024. We're starting at 5 o'clock and going until 9 o'clock. It is at Hotel de Luis, so it's right at the top of Coimbra, and it overlooks the river, and it's in a very beautiful location. Nice. Where it is. So there'll be about an hour of just like a market update, and then there'll be roughly 2 to 2 and a bit hours of networking, where you can get to know everyone that's in the room and, talk over drinks or a little bit of food.
Speed dating for property investors, basically, right?
Yes, exactly.